All right, let's jump into this one. So today we're going to talk about two more productivity methods that will help you in your everyday. And we're going to talk about Eat the Frog and one called Eisenhower Box, or you can call it the Matrix. Okay, so the first one is Eat the Frog. It's an extremely simple system for productivity that encourages you to tackle your hardest and most important task first. And we all often have very overly optimistic to-do lists, and we end up at the mercy of them without really working towards our biggest goal. So earlier this week, we talked about procrastination. So you will remember that we're hardwired to seek pleasure and avoid pain. So Eat the Frog is a ridiculously simple method that does help overcome that mental resistance that comes along with going for your big goals or doing those kind of really challenging tasks. So it sort of forces you to just get on and do the job. So it's really great if you struggle with procrastination, if you feel busy ticking things off, but you're not really making progress on like the bigger important stuff. And it's really great if you have a hard time sticking to a productivity system, because there's so many around, and we've already shared a few this week, and there's so many more out there. And some of them are pretty complicated. So it's great if you have trouble deciding what to work on and you feel kind of overwhelmed by your to-do list. So here's how to do it. It is pretty simple, like I said. So you identify your frog, which is your hardest, most important, impactful task of the day. You eat it. So you do it first thing in the morning or whenever you get started on your work, and you don't put it off for later. And then you write down tomorrow's frog at the end of the day, and you repeat that each day. So it's a pretty simple way to take action on one thing every day and do that effectively. And I think for freelancers and founders, failure to execute and failure to take action is one of the biggest challenges that we face. So we definitely have no shortage of dreams and ideas, but we can get really bogged down by less important or easier stuff. And we don't quite end up bringing those big ideas to life. So if you imagine you wanted to write a book, it's a big, hard project. There's going to be a lot of resistance along the way, but if you did just a little bit every single day, you would finish it eventually. It is a bit of logic. So this technique will help you to overcome that resistance. And there's really no room for procrastination, because you take action immediately and you get it done first. And, by setting the frog the day before, you're creating a little bit of a distance. You're not deciding on it in the moment. When you sit down, that's what you've got to do. So that's really good. It also sets you up to kind of win the day, so that when you eat the frog, that's a tick, a success. And that can really make you feel like you're on top of the world and build some more momentum and motivation for the rest of the days, because you've done the hardest thing first. So I like it. And I have been using it a lot lately. So it's a quick win. And sometimes they are really hard, and it can be hard to kind of pick out, if you've got one big chunky task you want to do, it can be hard to pick out one thing. But yeah, once you get it done, you really feel like you've ticked it off and you're working towards kind of your big goals. So if you're wondering where the name for this method comes from, it comes from Brian Tracy, the author of a book. It's a super tiny little book. If you want to read it. So he said, if it's your job to eat a frog, it's best to do it first thing in the morning. And if it's your job to eat two frogs, it's best to eat the biggest one first. So basically what he's saying is that after you eat the frog, you can get through the day and your to-do list with a feeling of satisfaction, knowing that you've probably done the worst thing that you have to do all day, or, the hardest thing. So that's where it comes from. All right, let's dive into our second technique for today, which is the Eisenhower Box. So this one is sometimes also known as the Eisenhower Matrix, and you might have already heard of this one. I know I mentioned it earlier in the week. It's a really great tool to prioritize, to help you prioritize. And it might even help you if you want to pick out your kind of frog for the day. This can help you with that. So it prioritizes tasks by urgency and important, and helps you decide, if you need to delegate a task or just not do it at all. So that's perfect if you have trouble deciding what to work on and you feel really overwhelmed with this huge to-do list. So this is what it looks like. So the strategy is designed to make organizing your tasks very simple using this decision matrix. So you separate your actions based on 4 possibilities. So there's urgent and important on the top left. That's something you would do now. And then there's important but not urgent, which is over here. So they're in the decide, and you will schedule to do it later or decide what to do with it later. Then there's urgent, not important, which you can delegate. And there's something that has to happen, but it's not necessarily something that you'll have to do. And then there's neither urgent or important, and you can potentially delete them. And deleting tasks is so good, and we probably don't do it enough, because there's heaps of things that we probably don't actually need to do. So to define what's urgent versus important, urgent tasks are those things that you feel like you need to react to. So that might be emails, phone calls, texts, news stories to read. They feel urgent, but they're probably not really urgent, in most cases. Important tasks, on the other hand, are things that contribute to your long-term mission, your values, your goals. Okay, so these are the bigger things that are going to make a difference. And by deleting, that's just awesome. It's a valuable tool. There's really no faster way to do something than to not do it. So if you need to make hard decisions, just cut things off your list. Often we work late, we stay busy running, task to task, and don't take a moment to just kind of check in and say, do I actually need to do this, or can I get rid of it? So this is a really good tool to just help you with that and to stop and take stock. If you want to look at an example, here are some tasks that I have on my to-do list today. So for me to do the urgent thing, no one else can do it, is to prep next week's launch emails. I might actually even move that to tomorrow. It probably doesn't need to be urgent. I could probably decide tomorrow. But I do need to upload today's pic from the challenge to Instagram. No one else can do that for me. And I also need to upload this talk to YouTube and send out the email later on, which has the link to it and also the info on the club. So I've already half drafted that. So I'm making progress on my urgent things. But yeah, those are things that I need to do, and they need to happen essentially today. The decide column, so I want to create a post-challenge survey. It hasn't really been super urgent up to this point. It's starting to get there, but I think I could probably do that next week. Let everyone have some time to marinate over how they felt on the challenge. And then, yeah, I could send that out next week. So it's not super urgent, but it is important, I think, to get everyone's feedback and put that into action for next time. Something I've already delegated this week because I have the challenge on and some other things. So I've got a subcontractor working on some client captions for me. And then delete would be social media scrolling, which is probably always in my delete file, but I'm finding that I'm getting really sucked into socials at the moment. So I need to kind of set, a few minutes, and I'm going to set a timer when I jump on to upload today's photo. And yeah, just tap out after 5 minutes or however long it takes me. But yeah, you can set yours out like that. You can, you don't have to do it in a table if you don't want, but maybe you might pick out a few things that are definitely important and urgent, and get to those first. It doesn't have to be overly complicated. So I really love this slide, this quote by the guy who's done this method. It's named after Dwight Eisenhower. He says, what is important is seldom urgent, and what is urgent is seldom important. So just remember that. Those emails, those texts, those things, it feels urgent, but it's often not important. And the things that are important to us, like our big goals, building our website, all those kind of things, it's not urgent. It doesn't need to happen. No one's waiting for it, but it is important, and it's going to help you kind of move forward in your business. So yeah, Eisenhower was the 34th president of the United States, and he was super productive. So that's where that comes from. All right, team, that's our chat for today. So I will stop sharing, but let me know if you have any questions or if you've tried any of those before.